Hey everyone, today we're going to be doing an official learn to play video for the Runes of Ede Expandable card game. There have been a lot of updates to all the cards as well as the gameplay itself, and today I want to go ahead and do an updated learn to play video so everyone knows how to play the game upon its release. So first thing you want to do when looking at the Runes of Ede Expandable card game is understand that we have two different decks that you're going to have on your table at any given time. Your first is going to be your stockpile. Your stockpile consists of your basic runes and ancient runes. Each stockpile consists of exactly 18 runes and is made up of exactly 9 basic runes of your choice and 9 ancient runes of your choice. As a reminder, when adding ancient runes to your stockpile, you can only include up to 3 copies of a given ancient rune. The next deck we're going to go over is your archive. Your archive consists of units and event cards. Each archive must contain a minimum of 40 cards and are comprised of unit and event cards that you'll use to best your opponent. As a reminder, when adding cards to your archive, you can only include up to 3 copies of a given card at a time. Welcome to Runes of Ede. First, how do you win? Well, if you break 9 of your opponent's runes from their stockpile and they have 9 runes in their damage area, they lose the game and you win the game. Your opponent has 0 cards remaining in their archive, which is that deck that consists of units and event cards, or your opponent has 0 cards remaining in their stockpile, which consists of basic runes and ancient runes. Next, let's talk about the different areas. First, we have our resource area. Runes are played from the top of your stockpile into your resource area during your startup phase, face up in ready mode. While in your resource area, runes in ready mode can be exhausted to pay required costs, and additionally, ancient runes have action abilities that you can use during one of your action phases. The play area. Units and event cards are played in your play area. The difference being that units stay in play, whereas event cards are discarded after use. Unless a unit or event card is quick, which means it has these lightning bolt indicators in the card type and the effect box, it can only be played during an action phase. As a reminder, a player can only have 1 copy of a given unit in their play area. Combat area. During the combat phase, you can declare attacks with your eligible units, and each attack is performed separately and must move from start to finish before another attack can be declared. Your damage pile. When damage is dealt during combat, the top rune of your stockpile is flipped face up into your damage pile. This is important because whenever you take damage and you flip an ancient rune from your stockpile into your damage pile, you actually get to activate the action ability for free due to the broken keyword. Setup and play. Each player will shuffle their stockpile and archive and place them at separate spots on their board. Then each player flips the top rune of their stockpile face up. Players roll dice to determine who goes first, and each player will draw 5 cards. Each player then has the option to mulligan by placing any number of cards from their hand at the bottom of their archive and then drawing back up to 5 cards in hand. Once a player resolves a mulligan, they will shuffle their archive once more. Your startup phase consists of switching all of the cards in play from exhaust to ready mode and placing the top rune of your stockpile into your resource area, and lastly, drawing a card. The only thing that changes is that if you are going first, you will not draw a card and you skip your combat step. Now we have our action phase 1 and 2. The action phase takes place before the combat phase, which is action phase 1, and then after your combat phase, you will have a second action phase. During your action phase, you can play units, event cards, or activate action abilities, which your ancient runes that are in your resource area, you can actually pay the required costs, flip that rune face down, and then activate the action ability. This will take place at the same speed as at which you play a unit or event card, unless it has the quick symbol next to the action keyword. And remember, you have 2 action phases, one that takes place before the combat phase, and the second that takes place after. Next, we'll look at combat. If you'd like to attack with a unit, first exhaust that unit and declare which of your opponents you'd like to attack. Once that unit has been exhausted, trigger any effects which may happen when that unit attacks. Once resolved, there's an additional window for players, starting with the active player, to play quick units or events. After each player has declined, the player being attacked has the option to block. Once all effects from the declared attack have resolved, the defending player may choose 1 or more units they control to block the attack. Once blockers are declared, trigger any effects which happen when the unit blocks. Like the attack, once this resolves, a window will open starting with the active player. Then once all effects triggered from blocking resolve and both players decline to act, combat resolves. When resolving combat in which the attacking unit was blocked, the active player will arrange the blockers in the order they'd wish to deal damage. Units then deal damage to each other based on their current power. After assigning damage, if any units reach 0 power, they are considered destroyed and placed in their owner's discard pile. When resolving this combat, Mara the Untamed has a total of 2500 power from her attack trigger, and Bale Steadfast has 3000 power. This means that when damage is assigned, Mara would be destroyed, removing her from play, and Bale would have 500 power remaining for the turn. Once the combat resolves and Mara is removed from play, this is when any removed or after battle triggers would occur. The active player's trigger always happens first, so in this instance, any removed triggers would resolve prior to Bale Steadfast resolving his Might trigger. Now that the first combat is fully resolved, the active player may declare a separate attack with another eligible unit if they so choose. Danny Boastful is declared as an attacker, and any attack triggers begin to resolve. Once all effects from the attack have resolved, the defending player may choose to declare blockers. In this case, they decline. If the attack is not blocked, deal damage to the defending player based on the following. If the attacking unit has the keyword Devastate, deal 3 damage. If the attacking unit has critical, deal 2 damage, and if none of the above are true, deal 1 damage. The defending player then moves runes from the top of their stockpile one at a time to their damage pile for each damage they are taking from the attack. If the rune being moved to the damage pile has the broken keyword, stop and resolve its effect unless refused by that player. Now let's look at the end of turn phase. The end of turn phase has 2 steps. In addition, some effects may trigger at or during end of turn. If so, these effects would happen before you move to the first step of this phase. First, you have the cleanup step. This is when effects that happen until end of turn stop working. In addition, any units that have been damaged during the turn remove all damage they have taken and return to their appropriate power. And then lastly, you have the discard step. During this step, the active player checks to see if they have more than 7 cards in their hand. If they do, they move cards one at a time to their discard pile until they have 7 cards. One last thing before we go, mythic abilities. Certain units within the game come with additional effects that only they can tap into while in play or while being played. These units are marked with the mythic keyword on their type line. Using a mythic ability provides quite a bit of advantage, so it is limited to once per game, not once per effect. In order for a player to use a mythic ability, they must drop a copy of that exact mythic unit from their hand that matches the mythic unit in play, or being played for option 3. This means that if we're attempting to play Jed Awakened Marvel and we want to stop it from being countered, we cannot drop a Jed Marvel Caretaker to satisfy this cost. It must be an additional copy of Jed Awakened Marvel. And with your purchase of the Runes of Ede Expandable card game base set 1, you'll also receive the Mythic Ability Available Tracker. This is great because it can sit in play and allow you to be able to visibly see when your Mythic Ability is available and when it's not. Once you use your Mythic Ability, you'll turn your Mythic Ability Available Tracker face down, representing that you've used your Mythic Ability for the game. Now, to go over the Mythic Abilities, you have 3 options. Option 1 is activate only during your main phase, like playing an event, which you can draw 2 cards. Option 2 is activate when a card or effect targets the unit, counter that card or effect, and then option 3 is activate when a card or effect attempts to counter the unit from being played, counter that card or effect. Mythic abilities are something that make the Runes of Ede Expandable card game incredibly unique. We first have a restriction that limits you to only having 1 copy of a given unit in play, which means that you have to be really strategic in how you deploy your cards throughout the game. The Mythic ability allows players to take those extra copies of Mythic units and get a ton of advantage out of it, which is really exciting. To go along with the stockpile and the way that we have damage and the broken abilities of Ancient Runes along with their action abilities, Runes of Ede truly is an innovative and expressive game that takes you fully into the world of Ede and allows you to dive in and have an amazing experience with your friends and family. Anyway, thanks so much for watching the Learn to Play video. Be sure to check out our website. We're going to be having the game on sale soon. And anyways, hope everyone has a great day. Thanks. Bye.